Air Canada is the flag carrier and the largest airline of Canada by fleet size and passengers carried. It is headquartered in the borough of Saint Laurent in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The airline, founded in 1937, provides scheduled and charter air transport for passengers and cargo to 207 destinations worldwide. It is a founding member of the Star Alliance. Air Canada's largest hubs are at Toronto Pearson International Airport. The airline's regional service is Air Canada Express. Canada's national airline originated from the Canadian federal government's 1936 creation of Trans-Canada Airlines, which began operating its first transcontinental flight routes in 1938. In 1965, TCA was renamed Air Canada following government approval, after the deregulation of the Canadian airline market in the 1980s. The airline was privatized in 1988. On 4 January 2000, Air Canada acquired its largest rival, Canadian Airlines. In 2003, the airline filed for bankruptcy protection and in the following year emerged and reorganized under the holding company Ace Aviation Holdings Inc. In 2017, Air Canada flew 48 million passengers. As the airline celebrated its 80th anniversary, Air Canada has a fleet of Airbus A330, Boeing 777, and Boeing 787 Dreamliner wide-body aircraft on long-haul routes and uses the Airbus A320 family aircraft. Its subsidiary, Air Canada Vacations, provides vacation packages to over 90 destinations. Together with its regional partners, the airline operates on average more than 1,613 scheduled flights daily. Air Canada's predecessor, Trans-Canada Airlines, was created by federal legislation as a subsidiary of Canadian National Railway on the 11th of April 1937. The newly created Department of Transport under Minister C.D. Howe desired an airline under government control to link cities on the Atlantic coast to those on the Pacific coast using $5 million in Crown seed money. 2 Lockheed Model 10 Electras and 1 Boeing Stearman biplane were purchased from Canadian Airways. And experienced airline executives from United Airlines and American Airlines were brought in. Passenger flights began on 1 September 1937. With an Electra carrying 2 passengers and mail from Vancouver to Seattle. A $14.20 round trip. And, on 1 July 1938, TCA hired its first flight attendants. Transcontinental routes from Montreal to Vancouver began on 1 April 1939. Using 12 Lockheed Model 14 Super Electras and 6 Lockheed Model 18 Lodestars. By January 1940, the airline had grown to about 579 employees. Canadian Pacific Airlines suggested in 1942 a merger with TCA. Prime Minister William Leo Mackenzie King rejected the proposal and introduced legislation regulating TCA as the only airline in Canada allowed to provide transcontinental flights. With the increase in air travel after World War II, CP Air was granted 1 coast-to-coast flight and a few international routes. Originally headquartered in Winnipeg, which was also the site of the National Maintenance Base, the federal government moved TCA's headquarters to Montreal in 1949. The maintenance base later also moved east. With the development of the Réseau in 1953, TCA became the first airline in the world to use a computer reservation system with remote terminals. By 1964, TCA had grown to become Canada's national airline and, in 1964, Jean Chrétien submitted a private member's bill to change the name of the airline from Trans-Canada Airlines to Air Canada, which TCA had long used as its French-language name. This bill failed but it was later resubmitted and passed, with the name change taking effect on 1 January 1965. Elizabeth II, the reigning Queen of Canada, flew on the first aircraft to bear the name and livery of Air Canada when she departed for the United Kingdom at the end of her 1964 tour of Prince Edward Island, Quebec and Ontario. During the 1970s, government regulations ensured Air Canada's dominance over domestic regional carriers and rival CP Air. Short-haul carriers were each restricted to one of 5 regions. and could not compete directly with Air Canada and CP Air. CP Air was subject to capacity limits on intercontinental flights and restricted from domestic operations. Air Canada's fares were also subject to regulation by the government. In 1976, with reorganization at CNR, Air Canada became an independent Crown corporation. The Air Canada Act of 1978 ensured that the carrier would compete on a more equal footing with rival regional airlines and CP Air, and ended the government's direct regulatory control over Air Canada's routings, fares, and services. The Act also transferred ownership from Canadian National Railway to a subsidiary of the national government. Deregulation of the Canadian airline market. Under the new National Transportation Act, 1987 officially opened the airline market in Canada to equal competition. The carrier's fleet expansion saw the acquisition of Boeing 727, Boeing 747, and Lockheed TriStar jetliners. In 1978, Judy Cameron became the first